Hello, this is Julie Birchie, and today we shall have an analysis upon the territory of Puerto Rico. Many may not know this, but the U.S. actually owns a territory on the northeastern Caribbean Sea, and like I've said, it is Puerto Rico. It's important for us students to know about these things. Puerto Rico is not only diverse in its topography from what we are accustomed to, but it also has diverse peoples, foods, and cultures. Not only that, but they have a very similar government to that of our own, since it's part of America. So, why do you want to know about this? Well, I have big reasons. First, I have my ancestry dating back there. My papa was born there, and thus I have a lot of it in my blood. But you may not be Puerto Rican, so why should you want to learn about it? Well, since it's part of America, we need to know what our nation holds. It may become a state someday. You never know. So we need to dive into these cultures, even if it's not part of our nation. We need to understand what the world around us. The world doesn't end at America. We need to know what lies beyond our country limits. This speech would not be a possibility with the help of my friend Miss Sandra Lopez. She was able to give me the interview I needed to get the document stats. So within this document, we shall be learning about the interesting facts of history and statistics within this territory. To begin, it's impossible to know about a place without knowing its political system. Like our own, it is a democracy. It's one of the best forms of government, and it wouldn't be completely American if it wasn't. Puerto Ricans never really had their independence. If it wasn't the Spaniards that had control over it's the English. So that's why they're completely thriving off our government. They would vote to be a free state, but they just don't want to. They enjoy the government and the freedoms that us Americans get to enjoy. That is why they're very similar to ours. Like us, they get to have a voting every 4 years, and senators and governors. They go off what the presidents say, and it is very, very, very in likeness to ours. Not only is Puerto Rico intriguing to expand upon the political system, but it's also intriguing to expand upon the peoples as well. Like I've said, the Spaniards were first in control. They took control of the natives that lived there at first. The Spaniards had fine time in control, but then the English came. The English then conquered the Spaniards, and then the Americans did. After these wars and the Americans had settled upon this territory, they brought in the slave trade. The slaves were able to live in Puerto Rico, a vast majority of them, and that's how they're intermingled. So that's why you get that mixed color. You got blonde Puerto Ricans, you got Spanish black Puerto Ricans. It is so diverse. But unlike Africa, they actually don't segregate themselves. They all live together. They all speak Spanish. They all are most of them are Catholic. So that's why they're all similar to each other. And by 2016, the inhabitants were able to increase by 3.4 million. So that territory is pretty populated. And it just made them to think that they all live together. Finally, with knowing the people and the political system, you can't know Puerto Rico without knowing the food. That is one of the biggest parts of this land. When you think Puerto Rico, you probably think Puerto Rico food. So what do they make? My favorite is the pastelillos. They're like pastries with meat inside and cheese. It is great. You haven't lived till you tried them. You also got Puerto Rican rice and beans. It is nothing like Mexican. You can make it so in various ways, with corn, or you can make it in a stew. That's how we make it. It has pork, tomato sauce, and various spices. It's really good. They love their spices there, and a main dish they serve is pork. In the holidays, the menus are quite the same. They their holidays begin from Thanksgiving to an early week in January. It ends on January 6th on King's Day. So they're very famous for their long Christmas celebrations. It sounds really fun. Like I said, all the houses have very similar menus with shoulders, rice, and pigeon beans, and potato salad. Very similar to what we know here, but it's all good in the way. It's all good the same. Oops. This brings this presentation to the conclusion that Puerto Rico is a unique island that holds much more than it seems. You can't judge an island by its cover or its size, I should say, because Puerto Rico may be small, but it's filled with so much that we can learn about. I encourage you all to learn more about this place, since it has different cultures, peoples, and political systems that are very interesting to learn about, and we should all dive deeper as students.